Hey, warriors of wisdom. Today, we're diving deep into the core of self-respect, and I mean deep. You're about to discover the 7 things that self-respecting people never tolerate. This isn't just another self-help video. This is your wake-up call to reclaim your dignity and live life on your own terms. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why these 7 boundaries are non-negotiable and, more importantly, how to implement them in your life starting today. Get ready for some hard truths that might shake your world. But trust me, that's exactly what you need. Let's dive in. Number 1. Disrespect of your time. Time. It's the only currency you can never earn back. Yet, how many times do you let people waste it? A self-respecting person understands that their time is sacred. And here's why that matters more than you think. When you tolerate people who consistently show up late, you're sending a message to your subconscious that your time isn't valuable. This creates a dangerous pattern that seeps into every aspect of your life, from your career to your personal growth. Think about this. Every minute you spend waiting for someone who's chronically late is a minute you could have invested in your goals, your family, or your personal development. It's not just about the time lost, it's about the momentum and energy that gets drained from your day. The most successful people in history understood this principle. They knew that time management isn't just about productivity, it's about self-respect. When you protect your time, you're protecting your potential for greatness. Self-respecting individuals set clear boundaries around their time. They communicate their expectations up front and aren't afraid to enforce consequences when those boundaries are crossed. This isn't about being rigid, it's about being principled. Consider how different your life would be if you treated your time like the precious resource it is. Imagine the projects you could complete, the skills you could master, and the relationships you could nurture if you stopped tolerating time wasters. Modern society tries to convince us that being flexible with our time is a virtue. But here's the truth. Being consistently available for others' poor planning is not flexibility, it's self-sabotage. Remember this. Every time you say yes to someone who disrespects your time, you're saying no to your own priorities. Your time is a direct reflection of your life's direction and purpose. The solution isn't complex, but it requires courage. Start by setting clear expectations. Communicate your boundaries firmly but respectfully, and be willing to walk away from situations or relationships that consistently drain your temporal resources. Those who truly respect you will adjust their behavior. Those who don't, well, they're showing you exactly where they stand in terms of valuing your worth. Think of your time like a precious metal. The more you protect it, the more valuable it becomes. When you stop tolerating time wasters, you start attracting opportunities and people who honor your boundaries. Your time is your life in its most tangible form. Protect it fiercely, invest it wisely, and never apologize for valuing it highly. Number 2. Emotional manipulation. Let's talk about something that's poisoning your life right now, even if you don't realize it. Emotional manipulation. This silent killer of self-respect is more common than you think, and it's time to expose it for what it really is. Emotional manipulators are masters of disguise. They wear masks of care and concern while slowly eroding your sense of reality. They'll make you question your judgments, doubt your perceptions, and eventually lose trust in yourself. The most dangerous aspect of emotional manipulation is how subtle it can be. It starts with small things, a guilt trip here, a backhanded compliment there. Before you know it, you're caught in a web of self-doubt and emotional dependency. Here's what the Stoics understood that most people miss. Your emotional responses are yours to control. When someone tries to manipulate your emotions, they're attempting to hijack your most fundamental power, the power to choose your reaction. The signs are everywhere once you know what to look for. Guilt tripping, gaslighting, playing the victim, emotional blackmail. These are the weapons of choice for emotional manipulators. And guess what? A self-respecting person recognizes these tactics for what they are: attempts to control. Think about how many times you've changed your decisions because someone made you feel guilty. How often have you ignored your instincts because someone convinced you that you were being too sensitive or overreacting? Those weren't moments of compromise. They were moments of surrender. The truth is, emotional manipulators target people with strong empathy and a desire to maintain harmony. They exploit your best qualities, your kindness, your understanding, your patience, and turn them into tools of control. But here's where Stoic wisdom comes in. Your emotions are messengers, not masters. When someone tries to manipulate your emotions, they're not just disrespecting your feelings, they're attempting to override your reason and judgment. A self-respecting person maintains emotional sovereignty. They understand that while they can't control others' attempts to manipulate, they can control their response to these attempts. They recognize manipulation for what it is, a form of coercion. The solution isn't to become emotionally closed off. Instead, it's about developing emotional intelligence and boundaries. It's about learning to trust your gut when something feels off and having the courage to call it out. Remember this. Every time you allow emotional manipulation to succeed, you're trading your long-term self-respect for short-term peace. The price is too high, and the peace is always temporary. Your emotional well-being is non-negotiable. Period. Number 3, compromising your values. Listen up, because this might be the most important principle we'll discuss today: compromising your values. In a world that's constantly trying to bend your moral compass, standing firm on your values isn't just important, it's essential for self-respect. Your values aren't just some abstract concepts, they're the backbone of your character, the foundation of every decision you make. When you compromise them, you're not just bending a rule, you're breaking something fundamental within yourself. Most people think compromising values happens in big, dramatic moments. But here's the truth. It happens in small, seemingly insignificant decisions. It's those little white lies, those small ethical shortcuts, those moments when you choose convenience over conviction. The Stoics understood something profound about values. They're not just guidelines for good behavior, they're the very essence of who you are. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about virtue for abstract philosophical debates. He wrote about it because he understood that our values define our existence. Every time you compromise your values, you create a crack in your foundation of self-respect. These cracks might seem small at first, but they grow. Eventually, they can bring down the entire structure of your character. Society will tell you that being flexible with your values is smart, practical, even necessary. But let's call this what it is: a rationalization for moral cowardice. A self-respecting person understands that values aren't meant to be convenient. They're meant to be true. Think about the last time you compromised your values. How did it feel in the moment? More importantly, how did it feel hours, days, or weeks later? That lingering discomfort wasn't just guilt, it was your self-respect trying to warn you. The real test of values isn't when upholding them is easy, it's when upholding them costs you something. Maybe it's an opportunity, a relationship, or material gain. A self-respecting person understands that no external reward is worth the internal price of compromise. Here's what most personal development gurus won't tell you. Standing firm on your values often means standing alone. It means being willing to be misunderstood, criticized, even ostracized. But the alternative, living in contradiction with your core beliefs, is a form of slow spiritual suicide. Your values aren't just what you believe, they're what you live. They're not meant to be flexible guidelines that bend under pressure. They're the immovable pillars that support everything else in your life. The world doesn't respect people who don't respect their own values. When you stand firm on your principles, you might lose some opportunities, but you'll gain something far more valuable: unshakable self-respect. Remember this. At the end of each day, you have to live with yourself. Make sure you're living with someone whose values you respect. Number 4. Chronic negativity. Let's tackle something that's silently destroying your potential: chronic negativity. Not just the occasional bad mood, but the persistent cloud of negativity that some people carry around like a security blanket. Here's the brutal truth. Negative people aren't just sharing their perspective, they're trying to recruit you into their worldview. They want company in their misery, and they don't care if they have to drag you down to get it. The science is clear on this. Chronic negativity isn't just unpleasant, it's toxic. It affects your brain chemistry, suppresses your immune system, and literally rewires your neural pathways to expect the worst. A self-respecting person recognizes this poison for what it is. The Stoics had a profound understanding of this concept. Epictetus said it best: "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." Chronic complainers are constantly focused on external circumstances, surrendering their power to change their situation. You might think you're being kind by listening to constant complaints, but here's what you're really doing: enabling a destructive pattern. Every time you engage with chronic negativity, you're validating it. You're saying, "Yes, this is a reasonable way to view the world." Look at the most successful people in any field. They're not necessarily optimists, but they're definitely not chronic complainers. They understand that energy is currency, and they invest it wisely. They don't spend it on endless complaints about things they can't change. Here's what makes chronic negativity so dangerous. It masks itself as realism. "I'm just being realistic," they say. But there's nothing realistic about focusing exclusively on what's wrong while ignoring opportunities for change and growth. A self-respecting person understands the difference between processing legitimate grievances and wallowing in negativity. They know when to offer support and when to establish boundaries. Most importantly, they know when to walk away. The solution isn't to surround yourself with toxic positivity, it's to cultivate rational optimism. It's about acknowledging challenges while maintaining focus on solutions and opportunities. It's about choosing empowerment over victimhood. Your mental space is sacred territory. Every negative thought, every complaint, every pessimistic prediction is either planting seeds of growth or weeds of destruction. Choose your mental gardeners wisely. Think of it this way: if someone was literally pouring poison into your water, would you let them? Then why allow them to pour mental poison into your psychological space? Your environment shapes your reality. When you stop tolerating chronic negativity, you create space for something better: growth, opportunity, and genuine joy. Number 5. Disrespect of your boundaries. Warriors, it's time to talk about something that's fundamental to self-respect: boundaries. Not just having them, but fiercely protecting them from those who think they're optional suggestions rather than non-negotiable limits. Your boundaries are the fortress walls that protect your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. When you allow others to breach these walls repeatedly, you're not being kind or flexible, you're being self-destructive. Here's what most people get wrong about boundaries. They're not about controlling others, they're about controlling what you accept into your life. They're not walls to keep people out, they're filters to keep your dignity intact. The Stoics understood this concept deeply. Seneca wrote about the importance of choosing your company wisely and protecting your peace. He knew that without clear boundaries, external chaos would inevitably disrupt internal tranquility. Pay attention to this. People who consistently disrespect your boundaries aren't confused about them. They're testing them. They're seeing how far they can push, how much they can take, how deeply they can intrude into your personal space. A self-respecting person understands that boundaries aren't cruel. They're crucial. They're not a sign of weakness or fear. They're a declaration of self-worth. They say, "This is what I will and won't accept in my life." The most insidious boundary violations often come wrapped in good intentions. "I'm just trying to help," they say. "Why are you being so cold?" This is manipulation disguised as concern, and it's just as toxic as outright aggression. Here's the truth that might make you uncomfortable. Every time you let someone violate your boundaries without consequences, you're teaching them that your boundaries don't matter. You're giving them permission to continue disrespecting your limits. Setting boundaries is easy. Maintaining them is where real strength shows. It requires courage to say no, to walk away, to demand respect even when it means facing conflict or losing relationships that no longer serve your highest good. Think about it. Would you repeatedly invest in a business that consistently loses your money? Then why invest your energy in relationships that consistently violate your boundaries? Your boundaries reflect your values, your self-worth, and your respect for yourself. When you maintain strong boundaries, you're not just protecting your space, you're declaring your value to the world. Remember this. People who get angry at your boundaries are the ones who benefited from you not having any. Let them be angry. Their reaction to your boundaries is not your responsibility. Number 6. Settling for mediocrity. Let's talk about something that's killing your potential right now. Settling for mediocrity. This isn't just about being average. It's about accepting less than what you're capable of achieving. Every time you settle for good enough, you're not just making a choice. You're forming a habit of compromising with your potential, of making peace with underachievement, of dying by 1,000 small surrenders. The Stoics understood that human potential isn't about natural talent, it's about relentless self-improvement. Epictetus started as a slave and one of history's greatest philosophers. He refused to let his circumstances define his potential. Here's what makes mediocrity so dangerous. It's comfortable. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't scare you. It doesn't wake you up at night with visions of what could be. It's the warm bath that slowly drains your ambition. A self-respecting person understands that mediocrity isn't just about results. It's about effort. You might not always achieve excellence, but you must always pursue it. Anything less is a form of self-betrayal. Look at your life right now. Where are you settling? Where have you convinced yourself that this is just how it is? Those are statements of fact. They're excuses masquerading as acceptance. The most insidious form of mediocrity isn't failing. It's not even trying. It's looking at a challenge and deciding it's too hard, too risky, or too uncomfortable before you've even started. Your potential isn't a fixed point. It's a moving target that grows with every challenge you accept, every comfort zone you push past, every moment you choose growth over stagnation. Society will tell you that accepting mediocrity is realistic, practical, even wise. But here's the truth. Every great achievement in human history came from someone who refused to settle for what was realistic. Think about this. At the end of your life, will you regret the failures that came from trying, or the successes you never pursued because you settled for less? The cost of mediocrity isn't just the opportunities you miss, it's the person you could have become. Every time you settle, you're trading your potential for comfort. Remember this. Excellence isn't an act. It's a habit. And so is mediocrity. Choose wisely. Number 7. Self-betrayal. This is it, warriors. The ultimate form of disrespect. Self-betrayal. When you break promises to yourself, when you violate your own principles, when you live in contradiction with your deepest values, self-betrayal starts small. A skipped workout here, a broken promise there. But each act of self-betrayal chips away at the foundation of your self-respect until the entire structure becomes unstable. The Stoics had a word for this. They called it akrasia, acting against your better judgment. They understood that the greatest battle isn't with external enemies. It's with the part of yourself that's willing to compromise your integrity. Here's what makes self-betrayal so devastating. It creates a cycle of diminishing self-trust. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you make it harder to believe in your own commitments. A self-respecting person understands that their word to themselves is sacred. They know that self-trust is the foundation of all other forms of trust. When you can't trust yourself, how can you trust anything else? Think about the last promise you made to yourself. Did you keep it? Or did you find a convenient excuse to break it? Every self-betrayal is a vote for the person you don't want to be. The most dangerous form of self-betrayal isn't dramatic. It's subtle. It's the silent agreements you make with mediocrity, the small surrenders to comfort over growth, the quiet compromises with your potential. Your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. When you tolerate self-betrayal, you teach others that your words don't matter, that your boundaries are flexible, that your principles are negotiable. Here's the truth that most people avoid. Every act of self-betrayal is a choice. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you allow to happen. The solution isn't complicated, but it's challenging. It's about rebuilding trust with yourself, one kept promise at a time. It's about making commitments you can keep and keeping every commitment you make. Your future self is watching every decision you make today. Make choices that person will thank you for, not choices that person will have to recover from. Remember this. Self-betrayal is the ultimate form of disrespect because it comes from the one person who should always be in your corner, yourself. Warriors, this isn't just about what you won't tolerate, it's about who you're becoming. Every time you stand firm on these principles, you're building an unshakable foundation of self-respect that will serve you for life. Remember, your worth isn't negotiable. Your time isn't infinite. Your values aren't flexible. And your life is too precious to waste on people and situations that diminish your spirit. Now, go out there and start implementing these principles. Your future self will thank you. If this video resonated with you, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more content that will transform your life. Drop a comment below sharing which of these 7 principles hit home the hardest for you. And remember, respect yourself first, and the world will follow suit.